Promotion and relegation are coming to America. Our long national nightmare is over at last. That's the news story, right? Because USL 1 is going to have promotion and relegation from the championship and its other league, and that's going to solve everything, right? MLS is just going to cave, and no, unfortunately, that's not how it's going to work. I'm excited. Look, this is a big day. This is a good thing, but it doesn't solve the problem, and it's not even close. There's a lot more work to do, and it all hinges on one thing. We're going to talk about what that is next, here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. So I'm being a little facetious. This is worth celebrating. USL is going to have promotion and relegation from the top to the bottom of their little mini section of the United States domestic pyramid, from their newly formed or going to be formed in 2028 top division. I think they're calling it USL 1, which will be confusing because they have the USL Championship and then USL League 1. I don't care about the names. They have 3 tiers, or at least they will once the league forms, and it's going to have promotion and relegation from top to bottom. That is a good thing, and it is worth celebrating. I don't want to diminish the fact that they voted on that, and that is an accomplishment. However, it's not going to make a dent in MLS, and it is not going to influence MLS's decision to have or not have promotion and relegation in any way unless USL achieves exactly one thing, and it is the most important thing they could work on for the next 3 years. We're going to talk about what that is in a second, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get down in the comments section. Am I narrowing this down too far? Once you hear what it is, let me know your thoughts. Get in the comments section down below. You can also leave comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub, and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. So should MLS be scared here, right? There's obviously a push. There is a lot of work being done to try and convince MLS to go to promotion and relegation, and of course they're not going to do it, because by not having it, their owners are guaranteed to continue to have these massively inflated franchise values. Now, why are they so massively inflated? Why is LA Galaxy or LAFC one of the 20th highest valued franchises or clubs in the world? Well, it's because they're a franchise and the rest are clubs. And these are franchises that are guaranteed to have access to the top league and, more importantly, to their massive television contract. And that's the key point here, is TV. TV is where the money is. That's the money that makes the franchises have values, gives them some money to spend, but more importantly, brings in the ownership. And the owners have been guaranteed to have a place in the top division, which is why MLS is now charging upwards of $1 billion for new franchises. They can do that because it's a guarantee. There is no risk of, oh, if I don't spend to be good, then I might get demoted into a league that isn't going to make as much money, that doesn't have a massive TV contract, that doesn't have this guaranteed revenue coming in. And these owners are not going to pay these massive fees if they don't have that security net, some sort of safety blanket, and some sort of guarantee that their franchise is not going to lose value. Remember, these are not 150-year-old sporting clubs built out of somebody's basement that have now grown into these multi-billion-dollar clubs the way they are in Europe. They're buying their way in and creating something out of thin air. So these rich owners, who are not stupid businessmen for the most part, need some sort of guarantee. That's why promotion and relegation is never going to happen unless they can find a way to convince the owners to, take a risk or somehow guarantee those values don't get hurt. So how does USL convince those owners of MLS that it's worth taking the risk for promotion and relegation? Because to be honest, even if Don Garber, the commissioner of MLS, was the biggest pro-rel guy in his heart of hearts, he couldn't make that happen right now, because he is in American sports, the commissioner is sort of the spokesman for the group of owners. They work collectively, and he does what the owners want, and the owners don't want any part of it because it would be a massive financial risk, especially for these more recent owners that have bought in at these massive levels. So how does USL get all of these owners to get on board with pro-rel? Well, the answer is they take a bite out of the market share. They're not going to overtake MLS. It's not going to happen. It's not a realistic goal. It shouldn't be their goal. MLS has a 30-year head start and billions of dollars of head start. We are now on a second generation of MLS fans. If you were an early MLS fan and you now have kids, they're growing up to be MLS fans. They're growing up in MLS households. I'm not one of them. I could care less about our own domestic product, but there are a large portion of fans in this country. These clubs, these franchises have big dedicated fan bases. They do draw, and they are loyal fans, and they're not just going to switch because a league comes along and says, yeah, but we're more authentic and we're more a real product because we have promotion and relegation. Look, I wish that was the case. I wish the average American MLS fan would go, oh, thank goodness I was only following this stupid league because it was all we had, but I'm going to switch over to the real promotion and relegation league. I wish that's what's going to happen, but it's not realistic. But you do have a ton of soccer fans in America, like myself, who would love to watch a domestic product and don't watch MLS at all. And that's who you have to capture, and you've got to capture them on TV. You got to capture the eyeballs. There is not one thing USL should be focused on between now and 2028 other than getting a good television contract. And obviously it's not going to be massive game-changing money because they're not a massive product yet, but they've got to get exposure. They have to make it easy for people like me to find their product on TV, and they have to get some revenue coming in for television. Without that, they will be nothing. They can exist and they can have their nice little cute part of the pyramid, and they can play in some of the little cups and stuff, but they're never going to overtake MLS, and MLS is going to look at them and go, huh, oh, these pro-rel guys, they're cute. We don't need to do that, and you can't make us. The only way you're going to get promotion and relegation in MLS is to convince the owners that it can make them more money, or scare them into thinking they're losing their existing money. It's one of the two. Make more or prevent a loss. And the only way to do that is to take a market share. So it all comes down to the TV contract. I wish it wasn't that simple. I wish it was more of the value of sport, but MLS has proven that that doesn't matter. MLS could care less about competitive balance. Oh, Lionel Messi wants to come here and only wants to play in Miami. Miami, you get a roster exception, and he can come play for you, and we will guarantee him an ownership stake when he's retired, just like we did with David Beckham 25 years ago when he went to LA Galaxy. We'll break all our rules because it makes more money and brings in a bigger TV contract, and all the owners make more money, and everybody wins at the bank, and nobody cares who wins on the pitch. That's the beauty of what USL is doing. It will end up being a better product, even if the actual football isn't nearly as good. But that's what has to happen. There has to be a good TV contract that makes the league money, gets the eyeballs, and starts to scare MLS. If they can't scare MLS, again, they're never going to overtake them, but if they can't scare them, MLS will swat them away like a fly on the wall, and we'll be looking back in 10 years going, hey, remember what USL tried to do? That was cute. And it will actually only reaffirm MLS's stance that they don't need promotion and relegation to be popular. Now, what is the best case scenario here for USL? They come in, they take a chunk, they start in 2028, they build over the first 5 to 10 years, and MLS starts to get scared. They're not going to make MLS go away. MLS is not going away because of USL. There is no outcome that makes USL so popular that MLS just disappears, right? That's not going to happen. But we do have some precedents in this country of mergers of professional sports leagues. And you know, American soccer is 50 years behind the times, but we saw this in American football, we saw it in basketball. In the 60s, there was the NFL and there was the AFL. They even played each other. The first couple Super Bowls were not the two best NFL teams. They were the winner of each league playing one another. Eventually, they merged and became the powerhouse we know them to be today because the leagues were relatively even in terms of talent level and fan support. So there was a merger, and they became the massive worldwide league they are today. The NBA had a similar situation in the 70s. There was the NBA and there was the ABA. They were not quite on equal footing. The NBA was clearly the better product, but the ABA was exciting and had a better, more fun brand of basketball. It had more black players. They had integrated better, so it was a more exciting game, and they were taking a big chunk out of the NBA. So they merged, and I believe at the time it was 8 of the 12 ABA teams became NBA teams, teams like San Antonio Spurs. And so there is a history there, and that could very well be what happens in 10 years if USL, and maybe it would take longer than 10 years, but if USL has taken a chunk out of MLS, they say, okay, you're cutting into us a little bit, why don't we absorb you? And to do that, they would now at that point have, 40, 50 teams, something utterly ridiculous. You would have to then segment them in a pyramid somehow. What would probably happen is the creation of a new top tier. We've seen that in European football, right? That happened in England 30 years ago. A Premier League was created up on the top, sort of a cap on top of the English pyramid. Now, that was not the merger of multiple leagues. That was just another league on top. But the precedent is there, and you could take the 30-some-odd MLS teams that they'll have at that time and however many USL teams there are and take the top ones and make call it an MLS Premier League or a US Premier League or American Premier League or whatever you want. I'll bet they use that nomenclature just to get that connection on the world stage. And then you combine in the second, third tiers and you build an actual pyramid. I could definitely see that happening. That's the best case scenario for USL, but it only happens if they scare MLS, if they scare the owners. And the only way to scare them, it's not even by fans in the stands. That won't scare the owners enough. You gotta scare them with the franchise values, and the franchise values are connected to the TV contracts. So USL, if you're listening, which you're not, you've got 3 years to figure out a TV contract. Figure it out. Figure out how to get eyeballs on your product, and figure out how to take the eyeballs on the screens, on the TVs, on the phones, on the tablets, away from MLS and over to your product. That is the only way to get their attention. That is the only way to make a dent, because you got to hit them where it hurts, and all the owners in the league care about are money. Did I simplify this too much? Did I go too far? Get down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. You can also leave some comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel, and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.